AET for refusing to take care of my mom after she disowned me. Years ago for getting pregnant, I, 34F, never thought I'd reach a point where I'd have to question whether or not to help my own mother. But here I am. This is something that's been sitting heavy on my chest for weeks, and I honestly don't know if I'm heartless or just finally protecting myself. Growing up, my mom, Evelyn, was a single parent. My dad left when I was about 6, and she always made sure I knew that she sacrificed everything to raise me. She worked 2 jobs, kept food on the table, and sent me to a decent school. For that, I'll always be grateful. But she also used that sacrifice as a weapon. Whenever I made a mistake, she'd throw it back in my face. If I got a bad grade, after everything I've done for you, if I didn't do the dishes right away, you're ungrateful, just like your father. Her love always came with conditions: obedience, perfection, control. Despite that, I tried to be the good daughter. I studied hard, kept to myself, and didn't rebel. But when I was 19, I got pregnant. It wasn't planned. I was in college, dating a guy named Tyler, and one mistake changed everything. When I told my mom, she didn't yell. She screamed. She called me disgusting, said I'd ruined my life, and that I was no better than the women on TV who get pregnant for attention. She demanded I get an abortion. I told her I couldn't, not because of religion, but because deep down, I wanted to take responsibility for my choices. That's when she disowned me. She kicked me out that same night. I still remember standing outside with a small suitcase, 6 weeks pregnant, crying on the curb. She yelled from the window, "Don't come back when you regret it." I moved in with Tyler, but that didn't last long. He bailed 6 months later, saying he wasn't ready to be a dad. So I was on my own. No family, no partner, no real plan. I dropped out of college and worked part-time at a cafe while juggling prenatal checkups. It was brutal, but I survived. When my daughter Emma was born, everything changed. For the first time, I felt purpose. She was perfect. I promised her she'd never feel unwanted like I did. Over the years, I worked hard to rebuild my life. I got my degree online, landed a stable office job, and slowly moved up. Emma is 14 now, smart, kind, and full of confidence. I made sure she had the love I never got. My mom never reached out. Not once. When Emma was about 5, I sent my mom a letter, just to let her know she had a granddaughter. No response. When I tried again 2 years later through Facebook, she blocked me. I accepted that we were done. Until 3 months ago. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was my mom's sister, my Aunt Laura. She said my mom had a stroke and was partially paralyzed. She could still talk but needed round-the-clock care. Laura said my mom was living alone and they couldn't afford a full-time nurse. Then she dropped the bomb. "She's asking for you." I froze. My mom, the same woman who kicked me out, ignored me, and pretended I didn't exist, wanted me now that she needed help. At first, I laughed bitterly. Then I cried. Then I felt guilty for laughing. I went to see her. I don't even know why. Maybe I just needed closure. When I walked into that hospital room, she looked smaller than I remembered. Frail. Her face lit up when she saw me, like she couldn't believe I was real. She said, "You came." I didn't know what to say. I wanted to scream at her, ask why she hated me, why she left me alone when I needed her most. But all I could manage was, "Yeah, I came." We talked for a while, or rather she talked, and I listened. She said she regretted how things went, but she didn't apologize. Not directly. It was more like, "I was strict because I wanted what's best for you." She kept using the word mistakes, like everything she did was just a misunderstanding. Then she asked if I could move in for a while to help her recover. She said she couldn't afford full-time care and my aunt was exhausted. I told her gently, "Mom, I have a daughter, a job, a life." She frowned and said, "You wouldn't have any of that if it weren't for how I raised you." I just sat there stunned. She hadn't changed. She still thought she was the hero in my story. I told her I'd think about it, mostly because I couldn't handle another argument. That night, I talked to Emma. I didn't tell her everything, just that my mom was sick. Emma said, "Are we going to help her?" I said, "I don't know yet." She looked at me and said something that broke me. "You always help people, Mom, even when they don't deserve it." The next week, my mom called, with help from my aunt. She asked if I'd decided. I told her no, that I couldn't uproot my life or put my daughter through that. She snapped. After everything I sacrificed, you can't do one thing for me? I reminded her she hadn't spoken to me in 15 years. She said, "You chose that when you got pregnant." I hung up. A few days later, I got a call from my aunt again, except this time, she wasn't as kind. She said, "You're being cruel. She's still your mother. She made mistakes, but she's alone. You'll regret this when she's gone." Now my family, most of whom I haven't seen since before Emma was born, are texting me, calling me heartless, ungrateful, even vengeful. But the thing is, I don't feel vengeful. I feel tired. I spent years trying to prove myself to someone who threw me away. Now that she needs something, suddenly I'm family again. I told Aunt Laura that I'd pay for part of my mom's nurse if they could handle the rest. She said that's not enough. But I think it is. Because the truth is, forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. I can wish her peace without sacrificing mine. Still, sometimes when I look at Emma, I wonder if I'm setting a bad example, teaching her to give up on people instead of giving grace. But then I remember how it felt standing on that curb at 19, abandoned and terrified. And I realize I already gave more grace than my mother ever did. So, Reddit? ATA for refusing to take care of the woman who disowned me when I needed her most? Thanks for watching. Tap like and subscribe if you're into wild Reddit drama. Got an opinion? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you would have done.